Good evening and thanks for joining us. As summer approaches and the economy begins to open up, there are warnings tonight not to become complacent about public health restrictions. Health experts say there has never been a pandemic in recorded history that did not include a second wave, sometimes worse than the first. And just because we're coming to the end of a first wave doesn't mean we can let our guard down on things like physical distancing and hand washing.
I might sound like a broken record, but right now is not the time to forget those core public health measures like the physical distancing, washing your hands. This virus can accelerate really quickly. And so we've seen it accelerating really fast in that first wave. So we have to be really cautious because it might not take much for another chain of transmission and an escalation to occur.
The president of the Canadian Medical Association says Canada is not ready for a second wave of COVID-19. Dr. Sandy Buchman told a Senate committee yesterday Canada is taking a gamble by reopening.
In my opinion, we're not fully prepared for a second wave. You know, if we don't have adequate diagnostic testing, so original testing, disease testing for people who have the disease, and we are doing insufficient contact tracing. When we do adequate testing of cases, as well as the contact tracing, we can better prepare to see if the healthcare system would be overwhelmed. We would get a much better picture of what we should do. In addition, we haven't undertaken serologic testing. That actually assesses the immunity within the population. We have insufficient information as to what's out there. So we're gambling by reopening. We understand the challenges of having an economy and a business and a society where people have these restrictions, but we need the contact testing, we need the tracing, and we need the serologic testing in order to make decisions about what to do next.
A second wave is on the mind of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, too.
The question that we're very much focused on is, as that second wave begins, or as we start to see resurgences in a reopened economy, how quickly are we able to contain them and control them?
And the ability to do widespread testing and contact tracing will be critical. We're not anywhere close to that now. Since the first cases emerged, just over 1.3 million Canadians have been tested. 5% of those have been positive, and on average, about 28,000 people are being tested every day. Some provinces are further ahead than others. Saskatchewan, for example, plans to test everyone who goes back to work outside the home. Eric Sorensen looks at why testing is taking so long to ramp up.
Hello. Good to be back.
Are we forging ahead into a more open economy blindfolded? That's the fear of many health officials, that we will increase COVID exposure while not testing enough to know if we're making things worse.
When you ease the restrictions, you have to be ready for outbreaks, and you have to be able to do a lot of testing and contact tracing.
Quebec is still averaging close to 600 new cases a day, but not meeting its testing goals of 14,000 daily.
I'm a bit impatient about it, tell you the truth.
Quebec's impatient, and so is Ontario, the two hardest hit provinces.
Is it frustrating? It's frustrating. Believe me, it's frustrating.
Doug Ford doesn't need persuading on tests. Ontario's goal was to conduct 16,000 every day. Early this week, the province was averaging less than half that number.
We can't just be testing people with symptoms. We have to start going to the broader public and start testing as many people as possible, asymptomatic people.
In fact, Ford says a new plan is coming next week, focused on random testing, including people who show no symptoms. In Alberta, meantime, they're already testing more aggressively, asymptomatic tests in Brooks and Calgary, where there have been outbreaks. In Saskatchewan, they have only about half a dozen cases per day. So while the testing capacity is 1,500 daily, they're only doing about 300 tests each day. As a result, Saskatchewan's offering to test anyone working outside the home who wants a test.
The testing strategy that's been deployed throughout the pandemic in Saskatchewan has served us very well.
The patchwork of testing across the country has prompted the Prime Minister to offer the premiers a national framework.
We don't want logistical or financial limitations to keep anywhere in this country held back from doing all the testing that is necessary.
And not just testing, say experts, but contact tracing and surveillance.
And that way we can jump on these infections quickly to prevent them from spiraling out of control into a larger outbreak.
And only by controlling another outbreak can the economy open successfully and stay open. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Well, much hope is resting on the discovery of a vaccine for COVID-19, though no vaccine for any coronavirus, which includes strains of the common cold, has ever been created. Multiple teams of scientists backed by the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world are now working around the clock, and at least 8 potential vaccines have reached the stage of human clinical trials. But as Jackson Proskow explains, the hard truth is there are no guarantees.
In the shuttered U.S. Capitol, plans for a phased-in reopening make it clear there's only so much that can happen until there's a vaccine.
It is not an on and off switch. We will not be able to go back to life as we enjoyed it in February.
In labs around the world, the race is on to do it faster than it's ever been done before.
The vaccine will come. I do think we'll eventually get a good one. Whether it's 12 months, 18 months, 24 months is anyone's guess.
There are encouraging signs. Researchers in Boston found monkeys infected with COVID-19 developed antibodies. Prototype vaccines proved effective, too.
So these data demonstrate that there is indeed natural protective immunity to the virus, which is important and underlies the premise of the vaccine effort.
A different study showed promise in mice and guinea pigs, and a small human trial found 8 participants produced antibodies after a single dose.
What's the biggest hurdle in getting a vaccine out there to market?
Well, the hurdle is demonstration of safety and efficacy in large-scale clinical trials, and then at that point it becomes a bit of a scale and production problem.
There are also voices of caution who warn the public should brace for the possibility that a vaccine might never be found.
It's going to be tough to get vaccines that protect your whole body and protect the virus from getting in through your mucous membranes.
Even with an effective discovery, it will take a Herculean effort to manufacture and distribute billions of doses needed to deliver immunity to the world.
You don't want to make changes in your own social distancing with the idea that there's a vaccine that's around the corner.
For now, it's a waiting game, perhaps the most difficult wait of our lives. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
The new series that goes inside the COVID-19 pandemic, from the front lines to the everyday heroes helping us cope with the unprecedented change. Coronavirus, the new reality. A Global News special, Sundays at 7 on Global.